Hi, I'm Elise Soucie Watts. I'm the Executive Director at Global Digital Finance. So we're a not-for-profit industry association, and we aim to be a real bridge between the public and private sector. So I'm a former regulator, and at GDF, we focus primarily on how we can support regulators in building new regulatory frameworks. So for things like DLT, stablecoins, digital assets, AI, these are all things that are innovating so fast in industry, and it's obviously challenging for the public sector to always keep up with that. And so we respond to consultations. We have roundtables where we can gather people from across the industry to give feedback directly to regulators. And we try to do that in a way that it's not trying to chase one particular outcome or only for one piece of the sector, like only capital markets or only retail. We work with a broad range of firms, anywhere from stablecoin issuers to law firms to analytics providers, because I think it's that holistic view of the ecosystem where when we're discussing with regulators, you can really get to a place where you're really trying to think about what is the future of finance? What does this look like in the long term when it's digitized? And how do we build those future-proof regulatory frameworks? And so it's a hugely exciting space to be in, and it's really enjoyable to be able to work with that broad range across the market and regulators around the world. So I think that this is hugely exciting. And, when I first got here today, I met someone and she's creating an app for women's health tech that's built, by women, for women, that's comprehensive and inclusive and can take all of your biometric data and use AI to give you better results. And again, I think that, being able to hear from other people in the space, hear what kinds of regulation they're facing, how they're innovating, how they're fundraising, it's really interesting to be able to take those learnings back to the things that I do at GDF, because regulation is different in every sector. It evolves differently in every sector, but then there are those common themes throughout when you're thinking about how rapidly tech is evolving and the sort of support that, private sector can give to regulators to really understand the technology so that you can create better regulation. And I think, to me, that was something that was really exciting about this event, because one, you can learn from this diverse range of perspectives that can cause you to think about things a little differently. But also, I think that it's good to sometimes look beyond finance and see the wider application, because ultimately these technologies like DLT and AI, they're not just applicable to financial services. They are applicable more broadly. So it's not just about what we learn from others. We can then share that more widely too and influence those other frameworks as well. So I think it's a great concept, and yet huge kudos to the team for bringing it together. I always meet a lot of interesting people. I think one thing, and I noticed this like the first time that I came to Zurich, for these types of events, Alpine Tech Forum, for Point Zero Forum, I think that Zurich is such a cool location because, one, it inspires a sense of neutrality. At least that is the sense that I get from people. It brings people together, and I guess you could sometimes maybe say the same about Brussels, but obviously Brussels is where the legislation happens. It's where the real politic happens as well, whereas I feel like Switzerland, and Zurich in particular, has this neutral aura to it, and you see that when you see the gathering of regulators, you see the gathering of people, and it feels like a place where people can really come together, which I think is really exciting. I also personally find it to be a little bit calmer than London, and while it's a tech hub, very innovative, amazing kind of new and cool office spaces, it's not quite as crazy, I guess, as London feels sometimes. And so I think in that sense, it's exciting. I'll also say, about the Swiss regulators, FINMA were some of the first to think about DLT and tokenization of securities and advancing digital legislation. And so in that sense, Switzerland has been very forward-looking as well. I just came off the panel with someone, and, he was saying for 6 and SDX, like Switzerland was what enabled them to scale by being so forward-looking. And I think you can really see that embodied when you come here to Zurich.
Great.
The Swiss regulators, FINMA, they were some of the first to think about digital asset legislation. I think that's really exciting. One thing that I do hear from firms is that, looking ahead, it would be great to see Switzerland continue that innovation and continue that trajectory. So, for example, one thing that we see in MiCA, but not in Switzerland yet, is stablecoins for payments. And I think that, considering what we see around the world, Abu Dhabi has fiat reference tokens. We see stablecoin legislation in the Genius Act going in the US right now through the Senate. I think this could be an area where Switzerland could really lead to, and I think it would be very welcomed by firms. I mean, personally, I think Switzerland is really beautiful. Zurich is a really beautiful city, really clean, really safe. I think those are things that are really fun. I mean, for me personally, I grew up in the countryside outside of Chicago, so I also love like nature. Zurich feels like very green to me, and also I know from people that do live here, it's not hard to like get out of the city either. There's so many beautiful places around that, and I think that's something that's always super valuable as well. But yeah, I'm excited to explore it more because I definitely don't know it as well as I'm sure some who live here, but every time I come, I really love it.